Hey everybody, so today's prompt is curtain, and just over a week and a half ago I finished reading When the Curtain Falls by Carrie Fletcher, so I found it pretty fitting to do a review of When the Curtain Falls. So like her other books, I actually really loved reading this. It was a lot of fun. I didn't realize how much I like ghost stories until reading this. I'm usually more of a sci-fi, fantasy, magical realism kind of person. But now, after reading When the Curtain Falls, I am actually really excited to find more paranormal books. Hopefully I can find some that are a little bit more lighthearted, have slightly happier endings than most of the ones that I've read about or heard about. Anyway, my biggest gripe with When the Curtain Falls was that the story actually followed a different couple more than I thought it would. I thought that it was going to follow Olive and Oscar more, but instead it followed Fawn and Walter. But I really enjoyed both stories, so I liked how they interacted with each other, both through the writing style as well as through the plot. My favorite thing about the book was that I loved being able to see the behind the scenes kind of thing for the theater world. I've always been fascinated by theater and musicals, but most of that stems from watching Frank Sinatra, Fred Astaire, Gene Kelly, Gene Autry, Judy Garland, and movies that are musicals. I've not had the chance to see many musicals performed on stage. I've seen more done by schools and local theaters than I have by professional crews and casts. Not to say that those can't be amazing, and several of the ones I have seen have been, but seeing it by a professional cast has a different feel to it. Either way, seeing a bit of a perspective on what it can be like behind the scenes and how close the cast can be to each other was really fun. I liked seeing that and reading about it. From what Carrie Fletcher has mentioned on her Twitter and Instagram stories and stuff like that, she's never had any interactions like the main characters have had with Tamara, so I am a little curious as to how frequently that might happen. But even without that aspect and all of the drama that is necessary to the plot of this book, I feel like I would still really enjoy reading about it. My favorite parts of the book for reading were actually a couple of scenes that could be triggering to some people, but just how they were written was incredible. There are a couple abuse scenes written in the story, and in one of them, Carrie Fletcher switches between two different viewpoints every sentence, and it describes two different, very emotional and physical instances that the two main characters of that part of the book are going through. I loved seeing the parallels in that and how she worked in the action and the emotion without being too detailed or grotesque. There's also another scene that describes something that I was honestly scared that I would experience at some point. There's also a scene in which someone who is known to be physically abusive, but we hadn't really witnessed it yet, acts out, and that scene is written so well, and that is probably one of the more triggering scenes in the book. But I also adored how she wrote the ghost scenes, especially the first couple ones in which the ghosts are there. It's interesting reading different ways that people imagine ghosts, from their appearances to talking to things like that, and I really enjoyed how Carrie Fletcher did it. It made me think a lot of On the Other Side, even though they are two very different stories, and in one of them you can't see the ghosts of the deceased. So it's been very fascinating to me to think about the differences and the similarities between the characters in each book. I was a little disappointed by the lack of focus on certain characters, but at the same time I understood why she chose to do that and how it helped move the plot along. But I was also a little confused a couple of times by the sudden jumps to the past. But when you continue reading, it becomes very clear why those jumps are made, and I actually really enjoy it. And she does try to make it a little bit more clear by putting the posters of the different shows in between those sections. Overall, I really loved the book. I didn't quite like it as much as On the Other Side or All That She Can See, but I adored it. I am really glad I have it. And reading this actually made me more excited about her next book, In the Time We Lost. I'm a little sad that it's coming out in October because that's so far away, and the release of the ebook is going to be even later, and I'm trying to buy most of my books via Kindle, so I'll have to wait a bit longer potentially, but I'm considering buying the physical copy anyway. I think you'll really enjoy the book if you like the paranormal and magical realism. It almost leans a little bit more towards magical realism and how it's described and how she uses some of it, so I would definitely recommend it if you like magical realism. But yeah, I hope you like her books as much as I do. I'll see you tomorrow. Bye.